Romans is a fantastic letter. It's loved by many people for good reason. It was very influential on Augustine of Hippo, particularly that verse Romans 13:13 to 14, where Paul urges believers to behave decently, to resist orgies and drunkenness, sexual immorality, and other things, to clothe themselves in Jesus Christ. And Augustine was deeply influenced by this, and those who have read his Confessions will know that he found in Paul the message that helped him to overcome his problems with sexuality and other things in his conversion. There's, of course, Luther, who was the great reformer, who God used to set ablaze the Reformation. And it was Romans chapter 1, verse 16 and 17 that changed his life as he realized that although he was a righteous monk who had tried to live wonderfully, that indeed he found just the doctrine of justification by faith. And he was set free from his sense of misery. He became aware of the mercy of God, and he was completely transformed. And then there's John Wesley, who, would you believe, was converted in 1738 reading the preface to Luther's version of Romans. Reading the preface, wouldn't it be good if you wrote something in the introduction, converted John Wesley, who became the leader of the Wesleyan movement, the Methodist Church, leading to a revival in evangelicalism and the modern missionary movement. He felt his heart strangely warmed as he was reading it. Then there's Karl Barth, the father of neo-orthodoxy, a very, very key figure in turning many away from liberalism to a more Christological and biblical way of living. And of course, many of us who have been involved in evangelism know the influence of Romans on many evangelistic tracts and approaches as we talk about the greatness of God, his love for us, that we're sinners. And of course, Romans takes us on that journey of all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. And then it is Jesus through whom we are saved, the expression of God's love. And that all that's required is faith. In many would say that Romans is the most important book in the New Testament. I would never say that, because every book in the New Testament is equally important. But certainly Romans is absolutely huge in terms of helping to define Christianity. It's critical for telling us the importance, particularly of the death of Jesus. For Paul, the center of his gospel is Christ and Christ crucified, expressed so beautifully in Philippians 2, 6 to 8, and that it's by faith that we are saved. And Romans sets that in its place. It tells us how we are to live. It tells us and helps us understand matters of culture. It's a wonderful, wonderful book. So I hope you enjoy your journey through Romans.